Hi, I'm Shane Brinkman-Davis Delamore, and this is my third attempt. We're still experimenting, trying to figure out how I'm going to do this. I want to do live coding for you all. Hopefully there's some people out there interested in this. So I'm going to be trying to do something that is real work. I'm going to record it, talk about what I'm doing as I'm doing it, and kind of show what I do. And sometimes I'm going to be showing off my stack. I've got a lot of stuff I've built. But more so, it's just about, sharing how this work goes and what all this is all about. So today, I'm working here with the ArtAppKit. And it is sort of a high-level set of widgets and other sorts of framework which provides a standardized way of building apps with the ArtSuite. The ArtSuite is my platform for, it's my platform for A to Z building apps, which is super cool in my opinion. It allows you to use one language, JavaScript, or in my case, CaffeineScript, we'll come back to that in a minute, to write your backend, your front end, your iOS and your Android app, and your web app, all as one cohesive code set. And to do it in a way that's very organic and exploratory, has minimal code, maximal flexibility, with a lot of opinions from me about the way the world works. And the first opinion is that the web is not made out of web pages. It is made out of resources and apps. And most of the web has not realized this yet. Most of the web is still trying to cobble together a bunch of pages to do something that they call a website, which in my opinion is really just a vestigial, sad little app compared to what we've seen on native apps. If you look on a native app, the fluid experience is so much more immersive and, when done well, so much more effective than websites are. Because websites are around this concept of a web app, a set of web pages collected together, connected to each other via links. That was invented for 1990s technology. The reality is we can do much, much, much better than that. So that's what my platform looks at doing. So today I'm working on this ArtAppKit. Let's take a look here. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and switch this over to I've got my screen zoomed in here a little bit, so I have to zoom out here. So this is, I have to have that up. Never mind, there we go. So this is what it would look like on an iPhone 10 right now. This is a bunch of dummy things, so like they don't do much. And one thing I want to look at is that these toggles aren't hooked up to anything, but I had set up these widgets so that they would still work even if they weren't hooked up to anything. So why aren't they working? Let's take a look at that. Always a good place to start here. I think I'm going to do this position, then we can kind of at least a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off that, and we're going to go over here. So I think we can have them up at the same time. Great. So now we're going to go and go down. So client components. Widgets, this is actually a menu widget, toggle. The toggle just links to this toggle, which is just this little bit here, as you can see. So if I take this and I comment it out, that little toggle disappears, coming back in, the toggle goes back in. That little bit of magic you're seeing there is Webpack and it's hot reloading. So let's go over here to toggle, because I believe toggle is where the actual functionality is not doing what I think it should be doing. That's some unused code. So let's see here. So that doesn't do anything. So I'm going to just do a little here. Let's just take a look and see if this is even, like, there's those here's going on. Now, I'm curious to see what this looks like. What is the value before? It's true, which is correct, but why is it not becoming false? It is now on. Is also true. Oh, do we have a, let's see what our props are coming in as. The way this is set up is if props have it is on value, then they will override it. True or false, they'll override what we're tracking internally. Because typically you want to actually wire this to something outside of the widget. But props does not seem to be, oh, we're taking it directly from there. Toggle to, toggle to. I think all we need to do is this, because we're actually just doing that twice, which is silly. In fact, I think all we need to do is this. Now we do want to also just make sure that it actually is doing something reasonable, like functional. Oh, that's what all this is, right. So let's go ahead and wire up a little functional demo here. So we're going to go into, we're working on this little thing called my kitchen sink demo because it's got everything, including the kitchen sink. Welcome to the kitchen sink demo. This demo is here to show all the widgets available in ArtAppKit. Every part of AppKit's code should be represented here. This is my flavor of Markdown, which looks a lot like Markdown. Actually, I'm going to take out all this extra stuff right now. And there we are right there. All right, so now we're going to go and we're going to put ourselves a little toggle. So we got this widgets demo. We're going to take one of these toggle widgets. But instead of having it toggle internally, we're going to do here state field. I'll just call it as on assign. Terrible description, really, but action. So we're going to do pass in is on as is. I'm going to call this a little show more, which is kind of a silly way to do this, but we're going to do it nonetheless. And we have some icons, I believe, here. Let's go ahead and do that. So if is on, then caret down, else caret right. It'd be nicer to have it rotate, but we're just going to do it this way for right now. So that does something real. Let's, for fun though, let's actually make it do something a little bit even more real, which if is on, down here, menu section, about me. Let's actually call it show about me. And we'll do a menu markdown. My name is Shane Brinkman-Davis Delamore. I created the Art Suite to unify and streamline app development. Developer productivity is king. So look about me. All right, cool. That solved that little problem pretty easily, and we kind of verified it's working both ways. Yes, we're going to add those asset sources. And, well, so many things are work in progress here. So we're just going to, we'll do a demo. This is one of the ways that I increase my commits. Hello? I believe increasing commits is a good thing. The more commits, the better, because it allows you to slice and dice your history more easily, especially if one, you're reviewing the history, or two, if you are like create a bug and you need to find out where it broke. I often use my Git history. I like roll back a little bit. Is it still broken there? Yes, no. And then you can use bisection to split up that history until you find exactly the commit that changed it. Then you know exactly what code changed it. The less code per commit makes that way more effective. So the third reason for doing multiple commits is for general self-awareness. Each commit is a chance to take a little bit of a note of what you were doing right then. And then you have a very detailed log about all the things you've been working on, when and how much time they took, etc. So I have a whole bunch of changes here. Turns out these changes are not completely interrelated, so I'm going to commit them one at a time. And that gives me a bunch of additional commits. Like this, day, age, string. It's a cool little tool that shows you a string based upon this date compared to now that says how old is that date. Did that date happen yesterday, tomorrow, sometime in the past week, in which case it'll say Wednesday, or someone next week, which I don't think it says next Wednesday yet, but it could. It just does a standard colloquial English way of referencing the time of date, what day it is relative to where we are right now. We are going to do this. Git commit this, and we're going to grab that. This is minor because it's adding a functionality. New. Great. App palette. Next up. I guess I'm ready to commit those. App palette is a great little tool that lets you have a standard way of having a palette of colors for your app, and it lets you customize it for your particular app. So here's the app palette. And what you can do is you can say set app palette, which is a class method on app palette, and you pass in a map of strings to colors. And most importantly, you can pass in the primary. And then the primary will then set a lot of things based on what your primary is. It'll set the primary, it'll set these darker versions of the primaries, and it'll probably have some lighter versions too. It also sets red and green and makes sure that they are a comparably saturated value to your primary. I have to play around with those some more, make sure that works well in all senses. But the point is that you can plug in primary, but then you get some sort of standard things here, some different shades of gray, warning and activity badges, which are variations of the red. But remember, the red is based on your primary, so it has the right kind of color weight and so forth. So it's a super easy way to have a nice reusable palette. So we added the primary dark 1 through 5. So that's what we're going to do. Git commit minor, because it's adding new things. Minor, new, let's see, app palette dot primary dark 1 through 5. So you notice I'm using minor here. I like to do that because I like to say what kind of change is it. A patch change means it's internal, it just made this app work better or faster. Minor change means we added new functionality, but it won't break old functionality. Major means we broke old functionality. This is a minor change. And then it's new because I'm adding new stuff. Sometimes you can do minor changes that are not necessarily new, but they are still adding functionality. But this is new. All right, great. What else do we got? LiveCoding button wrapper. What's going on in here? you can now set your own base scale on the AppKit button wrapper that you couldn't do before. Great. No git commit. There you go. That's also minor. New added base scale option to AppKit button wrapper. Button wrapper is pretty cool. It basically lets you make buttons of any type you want. So all of these things are button wrappers. The presentation, button wrapper doesn't worry about the presentation except for the scaling when you click it. But it does, however, handle mouse overs and clicks, and it handles the click actions and so forth. It's just sort of all the routing of all that. But if you want to make your button look how you want it to look, you sort of customize it. So all of these are using it. This is not using it because it's not, notice it doesn't have the little squish when you push it down. But all the rest of them are using that, and including like this here. This is like a little icon button. Great. Let's see here. Menu widgets. So many changes in there. So many changes on this whole list. Let's look at icons real quick. Ah, yes. So I have these chevrons here. My icon library currently always stretches the icons to fully fill the area that they're in. Well, these chevrons should always be a little bit less than full. So I have these options which let me override that, and so they're scaled at half. Technically, that's a minor. See, I wouldn't quite call this new because it's just extending. I don't have a word for that yet. Edit icon scales for other chevrons. Technically, it's new, I suppose. All right, let's see here. The page stack. What's page stack doing? Got a reset stack. Oh yeah, so I have a nice little thing here. So these are pages, and this app allows each root page to have a stack potentially. And it will track where you are in the stack, and you can always do the back to go back. But I also decided I also want a quick way to go back. So if you click on it if you're already there, so we're already at home, but we're not at the top of the stack, we click on it and it goes straight to the top of the stack. Cool. Git commit. Just cranking through these things. That is a patch because it won't affect the API. It is visible, I suppose, but usually what we care about patches is whether or not any programmatic clients would break because of it, and it doesn't affect any programmatic clients. So I call it improvement. There's usually fixes or improvements at this level. Clicking on setting the current page stack when it is already current will zoom you to the top of the stack. So many more things here. The icon widget. It's got an animator and draw. I'm going to group a couple of these. And they could be all done one at a time. We just fixed that. Oh, wait a second. Let's take out my log, though. So I'm going to do that one, because that one is a nice little fix. Patch fix. That is toggle works again in standalone mode without external state. I'm not entirely sure it's useful at all without external state, honestly, but when you first try it out, it should work. Let's see what else we got in the widgets. Those are shadow tricks, button size, just presentation. Oh, but there's a little more than that. You're moving the props.children in, so that's pretty important. That means when you're using the toolbar button, you can put your own custom children in. There's so much that's in work in progress on this. So much making progress here. But I'm going to comment that separately. Minor new can now pass in children, pass in children to toolbar button for custom presentation. These guys up here are toolbar buttons, but they are also used in other places. Mostly it's icon and a little bit in a short text versus these menu widgets. They're longer text, possibly a right text, and they're made to be like a bar. These guys are made to be more like little type buttons with an icon and some text. And widget lib, what do we got in here? Technically it's minor, but this is definitely an improvement. Well, it's a new improvement and new, but the draw, that's how these are all presented, like this hover effect that you're seeing here. That's part of that. Common button. Draw now supports more options. I know that wasn't the best description. I don't want to spend all of our time here just going through all these, so like that's presentation. Did we decide this was presentation too? Yeah. Init. Patch improved. Don't render until icons are loaded. That's a good idea, right? And these are all these little changes I've been working on that I haven't committed because I was being distracted, I guess. I should be a little bit better at that. Trying to find all the ones that are sort of presentation together. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, this is just demo. This is what we just did. It is this thing right here. Show a toggle with external state. Come on. All right, what are all these menu widgets? What am I doing in the menu widget range? This allows you to override the presentation of a menu button. Technically minor. And this is improving. These guys should have, oh, they must not have the pencils? We must have only put them in the other spot. Let's see here. Let's get an asset in here. Asset source. Font awesome. There's pencil alt, but is it, do we also need pencil? Is that what's going on here? Menu, editable text. Now it's using pencil alt, which should be the thing. Pencil alt should be there. So we're going to go here. Neptune.ArtAppKit.icons.client. Pencil alt. Oh, I know what's going on here. We've not rebuilt it. Build assets. Well, look at that. Icons. Yep. Thought there were some new icons there. Great. Patch, improved, new. All right, we're getting down to the end of this list. I'm probably getting down to the end of this video. So we fixed the main bug I was trying to get on this video. Test. Test the text. Oh, this lets you do menu section label, center, right align text. That's kind of cool. And otherwise, it's just a little bit of layout tweaking and the left and right text. All right, so that's pretty cool. That's the menu section label. Minor, new, actually this is almost a patch new. You can use in your label for centered and right aligned. Aligned. More stuff, minor, new, can pass through. Icon, shadow. That's all presentation. All right, all that's a minor it, push it. You notice did a full reload on that over here. That's because the package.json is linked in, and so when you change it, it's going to reload because there's no hot reload for JSON files. And the reason why is because neptune.art.appkit.version, and look, 0.3.0, we know what version it is. And that's cool because it allows us to like get versions, and like we can see all the versions of everything loaded because everything does it that way, which is super cool. So I think that might be where I'm going to stop this video, because this video I think is probably the first one I'm going to release. So cheers. If you happen to catch this very first video, I would love some feedback. And I'm going to be iterating. I'm going to try to do this once a week or so. And we're going to try to do half an hour to an hour and go through with some real code. So I want to highlight a couple of things that you saw going by here. We didn't talk too much about it as I was doing it. So I'm going to talk a little bit at the end here. The coding is going to be done, so you can stop here if you want. But this is all CaffeineScript. All this code is in my programming language. You may have heard of CaffeineScript. CaffeineScript takes CaffeineScript to the next level. CaffeineScript, I think, had some really good ideas, like using block structured programming, everything returns a value. It's not comprehensions, that's the last one I was thinking of. And several other little other things. But those things I wanted to take to the next level. So we've got much better comprehensions here. We've got much better block support. That was one of my big gripes about CaffeineScript, is it never got block support. It was inconsistent and there were weird edge cases. Here you can do blocks for everything. Blocks meaning indentation to express a subgrouping of things rather than curly brackets or parentheses or square brackets or all those other things other languages use. So CaffeineScript everywhere. CaffeineScript is just JavaScript, which is to say it just all compiles to JavaScript in a fairly straightforward way. The logic, I think, is pretty straightforward once you get the knack of it, and it just generates nice JavaScript for you. And one of my focuses is to try to reduce syntax, not the amount of typing, but the amount of tokens. I measure everything in terms of tokens because that's sort of the smallest, like, conceptual element of a piece of code. And so trying to reduce those as small as possible, and I have now passed the 3x point and occasionally as high as 5 times smaller than JavaScript, which is huge. The rest of what you're seeing here is ArtSuite. And ArtSuite, like I said, was an A to Z solution. We're only looking at really the front end part. The back end part, there's several levels here. There's models, which are kind of like Redux if you're from the React world, or Flux, the older stuff. We didn't look at the models. That is client-side state. And then there's Artery, which has pipelines which manage from the client to the back end and back to the front end again. And those things we're not really looking at here, but what we're looking at is the front end. The front end runs in HTMLCanvas. So if I go here and I say inspect, you'll see that such limited screen space here. It's just a canvas object, right? There's hardly anything else here. If we go over here, you will see that there are some text objects here. It blurs, it goes away, so I can't really show you very well. It all runs in Canvas. Why does it run in the Canvas? It runs in the Canvas because HTML is a lousy framework for writing apps. It's a lousy framework for creating documents. Those are the two things it tries to do, and it's lousy at both of them. I don't mean to be too harsh, but the problem is it's trying to do two things at once, and that is like the cardinal sin in programming, trying to ram two different concepts into one module. HTML tries to be good at documents, and it tries to be good at the apps at the same time, and it kind of fails at both. Master of none, right? Jack of all trades, master of none. Also, it's just got a huge amount of artifacts from being around for 30 years now. Those could be addressed, and they are somewhat addressed as we move forward, but there's just big conceptual problems with HTML. The biggest one is escaping. So you can have an element nested all the way into your HTML, and its layout can escape and affect elements anywhere else on the page. That's just extremely broken. It makes it really hard to debug larger and more complex pages from a layout perspective. It's also not extensible. You can't put any custom drawing code in without hacking into HTMLCanvas, which is what we see here, right? Which makes it extremely hacky. Like, you can't just do very nice and easy, elegant extendability. Which, one of the things here, do I have a demo in this? I don't think I've got a demo right here, but you can just, at any point, put in a code that draws a path and fills it. And it's really easy to do, and it's elegant. Extensibility is huge. HTML is just not extensible. There's also lots of little layout issues and other things that HTML could fix, would fix, but part of the problem is because it has to be standard across all browsers, it's been so hard for them to move forward with that in a way that makes sense. But if you make something that built on top of it, then all of a sudden it's so much easier. So, HTMLCanvas has huge advantages in terms of can write a modern from the ground up app framework. And that's what I've done. And it works pretty darn well, as you can see here. It looks gorgeous. It's very flexible. These set of widgets here are all built like so far removed from the core stuff that the core stuff is so super flexible. And I love it. So on top of that is this framework, which is currently called ArtReact, and it is much like Facebook React. Facebook React has always been a little bit biased towards the functional end of the world, and that's fine. I got no problem with functional, but functional people seem to think that functional programming is and clashes with OO programming, and that's never been my belief. My belief is that they are harmonious technologies. OO is an organizational technology, and functional is a computational technology. And you absolutely, if you think about it for a second, as long as you're not mutating objects, you can totally do pure functional stuff with objects. That totally makes sense. And I suppose part of it's my definition of object-oriented. Object-oriented to me only has the core part, which is you have these entities which cluster functionality with data. That's it. Inheritance, which is the big controversial aspect of OO. There's, of course, many different ways to do it. There's mix-ins, there's prototyping, there's classes. And there's lots of trade-offs there, and I certainly have my opinions on what works best there, but really what it comes down to it is functionality and object and data to link together. From that perspective, everything is OO, because all of computing stuff is data with functionality. And once you start thinking that direction, it becomes a very powerful way to structure your code, even if you're doing pure functional stuff. There's nothing wrong with doing pure functional objects. So my perspective for my coding these days is you want to be as pure functional as possible because it's really good for predictability. So you want to define very well where the changes happen and where the mutability is. There's always mutability. We have finite memory in these machines, so you always have to be mutating something somewhere. And the question is, where do you do the mutability? And so I fell in love with React when Facebook came out with it, but I went the path of, well, let's embrace OO as strongly as possible and make really good use of the OO, which is a component is an object. It is state and functionality linked together in a little bundle that encapsulates it and isolates it from the rest of the world. And now Facebook is going towards these things they call hooks, which is going to a much more functional solution. I think it's really, really the wrong direction to go. Not necessarily because it's functional. I have a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction to people who use functional to bash on OO. But even in the early days of Facebook React, they didn't support object-oriented stuff very well. They didn't give you a lot of the basic, they didn't give you a good, they had a sort of weird mix-in system, which was kind of clunky. And they didn't allow you to do other things that were that you could do more effectively with using JavaScript's built-in prototype system. So that's what my desktop does. So if we look over here, we got a class, we got this, and extends a component, and this is my own component type. The nice thing about this is it subscribes to view state information, which allows us basically to have responsive layouts really easily. And it just refreshes when it resizes. So like this. Nice, 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 nice. Oh, we got a new layout. So that's a lot of what that does. One of the great things about this system is that we can make it very declarative in that these are class methods that are going to get invoked at basically when this module gets loaded. So this gets loaded, and then we declare some prop fields, we declare some state fields, we declare some getters, and it's super easy to read this. And it is all customizable. Like this is all stuff that we can add into our own component. We can add these additional functions here. These ones are actually core to the libraries, to the lower level libraries, but we can add our own ways of making a declarative framework in order to express what components do. So anyways, the React basically remote controls the Art engine. The Art engine is the core part that does the user interface. And that's a lot of what we've been looking at today. And then the ArtAppKit, I've been building various levels of, well, why don't you have the ability to do drawing and respond to clicks and do layout. And then you've got the ability to do components. So you can do a well state managed application, which is Facebook React, and now my Art React. And then you've got some type of shared state system, which is Redux for the Facebook world. My objection to Redux is that it's everything in one big namespace, which I think just makes it very hard to make it modular. And mine is a more model approach, which is to say you declare your models of each of the different types of data you want to maintain, and then each one has an epoch state system so that state updates in a reliable, predictable way. But we've not looked at that too much this time around. I don't think I've even have any models in this demo app. No, it doesn't have any models. But just because you've got components and you've got the very low level widgets, which is to say like div tags, the equivalent of that, doesn't give you a whole lot of this basic sort of common functionality you do all the time, like this, or the actual scroller is built at the low level, but this scroll bar that you can grab here, that's not built at the low level. And toggles and buttons, and even more importantly is this overall nav system. I'm wrong. There are models here. They're just not part of this particular demo. But I am leveraging models directly here that are built into the ArtAppKit itself. We go down here to the models, and we have stuff like the page stack, which is really fairly simple. Fundamentally, it has a list of stacks. We can set out what the maximum depth of each stack can be. Tells you what the current stack is. And then actually each stack has its own ID, and it also gets stored as a state field. So it's high level here. And therefore when this changes, like everything is subscribed to. It's like this little arrow knows to appear, this knows to highlight that, all that because of the model. So that was sort of a quick, fast deep dive into some of the different parts here. And that's all. So we were talking about CaffeineScript. That's CaffeineScript here. You can just go to CaffeineScript.com for that. And then ArtSuite doesn't have its own URL yet other than github.com/ArtSuite. Artery, we talked about Art Engine a little bit, Art React, Art Flux, which is my models. Really, these are sort of the core things, and with them you can build some amazing stuff. Artery is super cool for the back end, and it does stuff that nothing else out there can do at the moment. ArtCanvas takes HTMLCanvas and makes it much more accessible. It just wraps it up and provides better drawing functions and ways of managing the state. And lots of other stuff. There's lots of stuff in the art system that are support tools to the main stack. So I'm really going to stop there. Thank you for listening if you do listen, but I'm just glad to share this. And let me know what you think about live coding if you happen to see this. I'm kind of excited about it. I think it's going to be kind of fun, but I really want to make it valuable and feel like it's worth checking in on and seeing what's going on. And that's going to be a bit of the experiment. So until next one, I'm Shane Brinkman-Davis Delmore, and thank you for your time.